free SHS was launched officially. I'll go through the rollout of the free SHS, absolve fees, items funded, and I hope we'll look at that very carefully, red, gold, green, and black. Absolve fees and items funded, it's become a controversy. Then when you hear everybody saying 20% in the core, that they are coming would explain what is happening. And the key strategies going forward we'll share with you, and then the question and answer, the main reason why we are here. Rollout, 13th September 2017, His Excellency the President Nana Danko Akufo-Addo rolled out the free SHS at the WAS, West Africa Secondary School. The free SHS program was supposed and is supposed to address 5 issues. The first issue was removal of cost barriers. The second issue, expansion of infrastructure. The third issue, improvement in quality. The fourth issue, equity. And then the fifth, skills development, employable skills. That is what we said when we launched the free SHS in the same office September. The first one, removal of cost barrier, the government simply decided to offer scholarship for any Ghanaian who wrote the BEC in 2017, passed, placed, printed out the forms, and enrolled. Simple. It's supposed to be for 3 years, and it's for only 3 years because the government scholarship scheme, and the student must aspire and determine to study and pass all his exams. We knew from day one, the president said at Okuapeman, that we are aware that expanding facilities to bring on a lot of students, thousands of them, may mean expanding infrastructure and providing certain things to let it work. We didn't run away from that. The third thing was quality. We determined that if we give the access, if we provide the infrastructure, if we don't put in teaching and learning materials, then one leg is going somewhere. If we don't incentivize teachers, then we have a problem. So we're dealing with that by buying textbooks for the first time in about 9 years. Core textbooks have been supplied to schools. We are supplying supplementary readers and library books. We are also providing core literature books, exercise books, and notebooks for students, so that the heads of the schools can arrange with the teachers to give extra tutorials to students who so may need it. The third pillar was equity. The fourth pillar was equity. We hope to, through careful use of technology, to be able to place people in public primary schools and public basic schools into some of our elite schools. And we hope to achieve about a 30% admission from the poor schools. And the fifth pillar was support to TVET, mainstream TVET, and do other things so that some of the students, even while in school, can get the knowledge to start work on the part-time or even when they leave school, have employable skills. Preparations and consultations. I think we'll see from the pictures up that before this hall, that before we started, we met heads of schools 3 times. We met bursars, we met domestic bursars, we met school accountants, we met school supply officers. Everybody in the GES chain, from apart from the teachers, from the heads right up to the Director General, we had a series of meetings, about 6 or 7 meetings in Kumasi, all in preparation for the free SHS. One of those meetings and some of the issues we demanded from the teachers, or some of the issues that came up from the district directors and the head teachers, was the fact that we have to be able to allow the schools to go to certain points to pick up non-perishable food items. That is how, it is the district directors and the heads of some of the schools that brought this idea of finding a place, because they said in the time past, they used to go to the PABSCAD secretariat to pick these things. And now, thank God, we have the buffer stock, National Food Buffer Stock, not under the Ministry of Education, but the Ministry of Agriculture, to do that same work that they wanted us to do. So we had all these association meetings. So we set up an implementation committee. that included CHAS, and that included unions. That included people from Ministry of Information, Ministry of Agric, and National Security. They worked hard to bring us an implementation document through which we are implementing this free SHS. We haven't deviated from the implementation document that was given us by the implementation committee. So yes, we do have a free SHS policy document. We do have a strategy document, and we are going through. We set up a free SHS secretariat. Cabinet, in its own wisdom, decided that free SHS is a government program and one special program. And since it's a scholarship program by and large, it should reside with the scholarship secretariat of the government. Since independence, our scholarship secretariat has been part of the presidency's budget. And so when this year people complain that the presidency's budget has been overblown, 2 billion, what are we doing with it? People did not want to face the fact that the free SHS is going to cost us 1.3 billion for next year. And it's situated in the office of the president. We in the Ministry of Education, including the Ghana Education Service, are managing the free SHS secretary on behalf of His Excellency, the President. On the school bill that is approved by the GES Council are one fee items that when you go to school the first time, you pay that and you never pay that again till you leave school. There are recurrent fee items that you have feeding fees. And there are core textbooks that we've included in our free SHS package that was not part of the bill. On the bill, though, was the supplementary readers and core literature books. On the bill were text, exercise books and notebooks. On the bill was school uniform. On the bill was house dress that we will pay for. And the continuing students would continue to get the subsidies they were having, and then the teacher motivation I talked about. Next slide, please. The next slide shows us in detail the one-time fee items: admission fee, maintenance, cumulative records, school uniforms, 2 sets of each, house dress, 2 sets, PE kits, 1 set, school cloth, medical exam, supplementary readers and 3 core literature books, 9 exercise books, 4 notebooks. Every first-year student should have 4 notebooks, 9 exercise books, 1 supplementary reader, 3 core readers, a set of core textbooks for the subjects social studies, integrated science, maths, and English, 2 house dresses, 2 school uniforms, cumulative records, maintenance fee, admission. The recurrent items, which is a lot, small money, but it adds up, plenty things, from general stationery and maintenance of vehicles, 2 tools for maintenance of machines, furniture maintenance, a lot of them. All these, or most of these items, are on the school list that directly goes to the schools. So we have a summary of approved items. Recurrent items, 101 cedis if you're a day student, 105 if you're a boarder. Through feeding fees, 112, 460. The grand total, if you're in an ordinary secondary school, if you're a day student, 648. If you're a boarder, 1,004 cedis. If you are in the technical school, it's 748 for a day and 1,104 for boarder, because you have technical drawing equipment, T-squares, that the other students don't get. So those are the absorbed fees and items that are funded. Then we come through the implementation guidelines. These included, first, as a result of our meetings, we asked all heads to write to us and tell us the number of students they can admit without congestion. And we have the record of every head of a school we placed a student. The letter is at the Free SHS Secretariat that we can show. The heads telling us the number of students they want. So if a head tells Free SHS Secretariat, we can only admit 533, and Free SHS Secretariat places 520. And as we speak, 517 have enrolled. how then do we say that free SHS has caused congestion in the school? There is no school, and I repeat, there is no school that free SHS has placed more students than the head admitted he can contain that without congestion. No school. Also, we ask the heads to write on their letterheads and sign by themselves and sometimes in conjunction with their board chairs. They get funded projects that are ongoing in the schools. That one too, we have it. We also ask the heads to provide, based upon the numbers that you want, furniture and other things that we need to provide for the schools. As at December, placements were still happening in this country. This year we strove and we got to the point that we decided that we want all first-year students to go to school when school reopens. We don't want anybody to stay at home. And for the first year in about 10 years, we achieved that this year. When school reopened, everybody went to school. Why am I saying that? It's very, very important. Because there's a debate that is still raging that says, should we go back to 4 years or we should stay at 3 years? People think we should go back to 4 years. Why? Because the learning outcomes for those who went to 4 years were better than those who went to 3 years. That is not the question. But what do we really mean by 4 years or 3 years? That is what I want to explain. The SSS syllabus is for 9 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 3 terms in a year, 3 terms times 3, 9. So we envisage that by the time the child has finished the 9 terms, he or she will be ready to take the West Africa Senior Certificate. What has happened? Over the years, because they never went to first term, they lost first term. If last year they went in December, it was just a few weeks, a couple of weeks till school closed. So they lost the first term. The West Africa School Certificate Examination starts in February, which is the second term, and finishes just the first week in the third term. Actually, the students spend only 5 days. This year, they spent only 5 days in the third term in school. So it means that the whole of the second term, they lost teaching and learning to exams. And they never had any teaching and learning for the third term. Meaning that 3 terms out of the 9 wasted. So it was 6 terms they were using for teaching and learning for a syllabus that said 9 terms. No wonder the results were poor. Because when we had 4 years, really, it just meant that we completed the 9 terms in the 4 years. Effective teaching and learning. So we believe that if we can make sure that the 9 terms are filled with teaching and learning, we can improve the learning outcomes that we are having. And that's what we want to do. So this year, we've agreed with West Africa Examination Council that we don't want you to start the exams in February. We want you to go back to when we all did our A-levels and O-levels, which was May, June, or NOVDEC, those who did resets. So this year, we hope that the WAEC will start the exam sometime in May, and they will start with practicals and orals, and the effective exams will start in June, so that we would have covered the 9 terms before the students start. So when we did the placement, and what happens every year, is that there are those who, when the placement comes out first, get their schools, and those that don't get. Previously, those that don't get, you have to find a way of going through the second loop or the third loop of placements. We thought we could employ technology to solve that problem. So this year, when we finished with the first loop, we said that every person who went to look at the results or the placement and didn't get a school, go back to the computer that you went to check and place yourself in a school that is available to you and the school has space. And so this year, the second loop was done through self-placements. And we can say that nearly 90% of the students who otherwise would have come and done a connection or who you know in Accra to be placed, self-placed themselves from wherever they are. So we could then achieve our ambition of getting the students back to school from day one when school reopened. We gave every head a laptop with an application on, because the heads were also to inform us, not only the number of students that you can admit, their day and boarding ratio, and stick with it. The only thing we told the heads is that the boarding places should be first given to those who live far off who have come. And then when you enter, depending upon the ratios, you enter and we see it in Accra. So when you said you get 530 or 500 students, 250 day, 250 boarding, as soon as you enter day boarding 250, 250, you, the head, you could not enter even one. So that was a check we were placing. This went on, and obviously Ghanaians, some don't like the school. Some who thought they would never pass, passed very well. Some who thought they would pass very well failed abysmally, and they had chosen the best schools, and they couldn't get into the best schools. Or some who didn't have faith in themselves had chosen bad schools, and faith had smiled on them, and they now wanted to change their schools. That is the Ghanaian system. We can never change it. So people, even as we speak, there's a enrollment going on. Why? Because some people went to schools they don't like. They know heads somewhere who claim they can admit them. So we haven't even completed with the enrollment. The other thing we said was that we will give you a lump sum of money upfront based upon the numbers you have given us. So if you said you could take 500 people, we'll give you 20% of the boarding fees or your admission fees, admission enrollment ratios. So if you said 250 day, 250 border, we'll give you 20% for day, 20% of border upfront before one kid entered the school. When you submit, you close your enrollment and you submit your list and we validate together with the BEC results, we give you an 80%. That is where we are. Procurements. The implementation committee that included CHAS, that included national security, that included unions, decided that there are certain items that we can buy from the center and get it cheaper. There are certain items we could pay from the center and build a database. And there are certain items that the schools should be allowed to buy and purchase. So we have items like school uniforms, house dress, school cloth, that the heads or CHAS told GES and ourselves that, oh, as for this, some of the schools have got stock. So please allow us to supply it to the students and pay for it for us. It's about 180, 90. So all we are saying is that we want to build a database of suppliers of these items. Because when you go around, you find out one supplier supplies about 50 schools. We want to buy it in bulk, but we will allow you to do it this year. But give us the names and particulars of those you bought from and the contracts you signed, and let us pay for them. So obviously, when you look at the school, if you could flip to the school bill, one-term item payments, if you look at that bill, you would see that for school uniform, school cloth, house dress, no, the next one, school uniform, 2 sets, 100 cedis, house dress, 2 sets, 90 cedis, and school cloth, 80 cedis, making 270. That is part of the school bill that is totaling 1,000 something. But that money will never go to the schools. You bring us the validated forms and we'll pay the supplier. It will never get to the schools. It won't stay with me though. Things like, go back to that same chart, procurement. Supplementary readers. Since we started JHS, no government has ever bought supplementary reader for any school. Neither core literature books. Core literature books and supplementary readers have become part of the WAEC syllabus. So what we did was to go to WAEC, take their syllabus, look at the core literature books, which is an alternate between a non-African book and an African literature book, 2 of them, and 5 African poems and 5 non-African poems. So the schools select. By defect, the schools are selected. Since we are in Ghana, will buy books written by Ghanaians. The Nigerians have decided that since they are in Nigeria, they will prefer to read Okonkwo. which I understand. We have to learn to promote where we are coming from. So what we then decided is that which books are the Ghanaians, the WAEC recommending, we'll buy it for every Ghanaian student. So we got the names of the books from the WAEC letterhead. We attached it, went to Public Procurement Authority. I said, we have about 400,000 students we expect. Give us the permission to buy the books and give it to every kid, which the Procurement Authority did. We negotiated the price, and we are supplying the 3 literature books, 2 literature, 1 poem, and the supplementary readers. So supplementary readers, we went to NACA, or CRDD previously. That's the National Council for Curriculum and Assessments. And we said, all the books, listen carefully, all the books that you are on your category A are supplementary readers, give us the list. We got the list of our 26 books. Hitherto, the authors of these books went around selling the books to the schools. We said, we'll buy all the 26 books, but we'll buy only 20 for every school. We have nearly 674 schools. We'll buy 20. So 20 times 26 is about 520, if my math is right? 520. So we'll buy that and put it as a library book on a library bookshelf so that the school may have only 100 students or 300 students. They can borrow any of the books and read because they are supplementary readers. We don't have to give you all the 26 so that we start building school libraries that are very, very important. The exercise books, we did a national tender. Every kid should get 9. The notebooks, we did a national tender. Every kid should get 4. The textbooks, we came to meet a situation where a tender had been done for the purchase of textbooks, but no budget had been done. It was 134 million Ghana cedis. I called all of them and I said, I cannot pay that. It is too inflated. Give me a cut, or I'll do another tender. They gave me a cut of 30%, and I took the books and ran. So we are supplying them to the students. The PE kits, we did a tender. The technical drawing equipment, we did a tender. Technical drawing board. So those are the things that we are buying, and if you look at the long list, these are the only things we are buying centrally because we want to make savings and supply it to the schools. Next, please. School level procurement but paid centrally. Next, please. Food procurement. I think that is the single biggest problem. That's why Anan is here. Buffer stock itself doesn't supply any school with any food. Buffer stock has arranged as the government's legal authority on food, quality and quantity, that every headmaster, and I want to say it again, every head of a school that has a supplier of these items, non-perishables, that was agreed at the implementation, should allow that supplier to go to buffer stock and register. That is all we said. Over 250 schools took advantage of that and registered their suppliers, and those suppliers are supplying the schools and other schools. Other Ghanaians who are in that supply business also registered and are supplying some schools. It is never true. It is never true that anybody has been imposed on anybody. And even as we speak, the buffer stock, if you're a supplier and you don't do your work well, they take the contract for you and give it to somebody else. So any head who thinks he knows of a supplier who can supply the school better than the one he or she has, only has to allow that person to go and register with buffer stock. They are the guarantors of quality and quantity. We don't want Olonka. Your Olonka is different from our Olonka division. We don't want that. What have we done? They submitted a bill of 80 million and we have paid for the perishables. So when sometimes you hear, when the ministers went round, the biggest problem was that the first years were being fed better than the continuing students. And the president ordered that we should send a circular to all the schools that even those continuing students are paying the fees. And the National Association of Domestic Business and Matrons have a common menu platform that every school should abide by. And that is what we are doing. The fees are the same. The payers are either parents or government, and students should eat the same food. If anybody goes to any school and finds out that, one, the first years are wearing different dress from the continuing students, it is the fault of the head of the school, not the Ministry of Education. Two, if they are eating differently, then that head should not be heading that school. We'll leave that for GS to decide. But if we are all paying the same fees, we are in the same school, why should we eat differently? I don't want to mention the situation of Ghana's Koforidua. That has become very, very topical. But first, GS will deal with their own issue. For those schools that are pure day schools, the GS got vendors to supply those schools with food, and they arranged with the heads what time the food should be supplied, and the type of food, whether it is breakfast or lunch, they will arrange, and that is going. What we are going to do is that we are going to pay the vendors directly for the sum. And we have asked that the buffer stock should desist from selling any produce to the vendors in the day schools. Again, one hot meal per day in the day school was a campaign promise and a manifesto promise that we said we would deliver. We've looked in all these things, we've looked at the various fee items, and we've done, by courtesy of the domestic business, we have looked at the school roll, we've looked at the items of the school bill, we've looked at those that we will pay centrally, those that GES wants to retain. Example, medical examination. Ideally, you have to have the medical exam before you go into the school, but it's never done. GES hasn't got the capacity to do it. So GES has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ghana Health Service. So they will go around the schools, take X-ray of our kids, register them if they don't have National Health Insurance card, so that they can benefit because they are already exempted under the National Health Insurance Authority. So those money like that, 15 cedis for medical exam, will not go to the school. GS would add it up and give it to Ghana Health Service. Utility. Every kid was paying, a boarder was paying 17 cedis, 30 cedis, 17 cedis, 30 pesos a term, meaning about 52 cedis a year. The day students were paying 13 cedis, 30 pesos, meaning about 40 cedis a year. If you look at it, the schools should not be owing utilities. And they were taking these monies, but they were not paying the utilities. Now, the ministry and ECG and NAD has sat down, we will pay centrally, so that they wouldn't go to any school and disconnect, so that the president will not have to go to Manfi Kumasi for the headmaster to come and present a bill of 11,000. Where we ask them how many students are on your roll, more than the money he has collected. He has collected more money than the electricity bill, but has refused to pay the electricity bill. We don't want that. So what we have said with ECG, we'll pay you directly. We'll take the money at source and pay you directly. Don't go and disconnect any school. What you can do, what you are allowed to do, any head or any teacher who is in the school can be given a meter, but not the general students and the general lecture rooms and the dining halls. We will pay centrally. So those bills we will pick. Something like National Science and Maths Quiz. Over 50% of the schools don't participate in the National Maths and Science Quiz. So why do we bill every student? And the schools that don't participate, what do they do with the money? So the GES is organizing itself together with the National Maths and Science Quiz. It is very popular. Of course, Prepper College was first last year. I mean my school. Not to us, you know. And not only do we want to support, the National Maths and Science Quiz, some Ghanaians have come up with the idea of National French Quiz, which will be in line with our commitments to make French a language that we all speak. Some people have even come up with history and other quizzes. So everybody wants to organize because prep ecology won and it became very, very popular. See, we sent 20% in advance. And I keep saying that if we take out those monies that are supposed to be paid centrally, some schools may owe us. People don't understand it. When you look at this last slide, the total fee for SHS students day is 648 cities, 47 pesos. Boarding, 1,000 cities, 1,004, 27. The amount to be paid centrally, when you add all fee, uniforms and things like that, for a day student, we are paying 50 cities, 560 cities, 80 pesos. For a boarder, we are paying 798 cities, 40 pesos. When you compute that percentage-wise, we are retaining and paying on behalf of the schools for a boarder 79.5%. So if we took 20% upfront, most schools may not have to expect any more money. For those schools that got less number enrolled than the projection that they took the 20%, they may have to refund money. Because these figures are not my figures. The ratio between perishable and non-perishables of the 468 cities for the feeding, the ratio is known. It's about 19% towards non-perishable and about 80% towards. So we split it up and given the non-perishables to the schools. And when you do that, you go back to that slide that I was on. There's boarder who is, we should remit on behalf of the school 1,000 cities. When you take out those things that we are paying for on behalf of the school and supply to the schools, 798 cities. That is 79.5%. So the school that took 20% upfront, that it would take 1,000 students and enroll 1,000 students, and then we gave 20,000, like say 20,000 Ghana cedis, expecting 80,000 cedis, should not expect 80,000 Ghana cedis because the uniforms we have paid for, the technical drawing equipment we have paid for, we are supplying, the textbooks have come, we have paid your utilities. For the TVET students who are paying 1,104 cedis, the amount to be paid centrally, you saw that the day school, the other school was 798. That one is 888. Because when you compute the technical drawing equipment and the materials, that is 100 cedis, that's the difference. It's 80.5 we are paying. So we should not even have transferred 20%. We should have transferred 19.5. So when people say government owes, when you go to those headmasters that want to be open, transparent, and truthful, they tell us that this is the best time they ever had because they don't go chasing parents for their monies. And for the 674 schools, less than 50 have complained. Less than 50 have complained. And most are very happy. For even those schools that suffer chronically, students' non-attendance are very happy because of what we have done. Government is not saying there are no challenges, but government is saying that we'll meet the challenges as they come. We had some schools with problems, and we can discuss it during questions and answers. But obviously, if I gave you 20%, and you are a TVET student, and you are a day student in Kumasi Technical Institute, then I should have given you only 30% and paid for the things I'm paying is 87%. You owe government money. That is why probably we are not getting the returns as quickly as we needed. Because as at this morning, only 100 schools out of the 674 have submitted their returns. So the Director General and the Chairman of the GES and the National Buffer Stock Company Chief Executive and the Coordinator of the Free SS Secretariat have undergone their second country tour since we started implementing the Free SHS. It was all in a bid to allay fears, to explain situations, and to see to the smooth implementation of this national program. That is all we seek to do. For those, obviously, who intend to smuggle, to cheat, now everybody is a citizen. And when the citizens announce that you are cheating, you are stealing, you are pilfering, it's not the Ministry of Education that will deal with you. It is the Ghana Education Service, your employer, who will deal with you. Thank you. Couple of slides is to tell you where we are. When we started this journey, we had a projection to move admission rates, enrollment rates from 75% to 84%. And we want to show you what we've done or where we are as we speak. This slide tells us the total registered applicants from WAEC. It was 468,060 students that registered for the BEC. In January 2017, WAEC submitted to us a list that government paid for, because government was paying at that time 75%. That it was 467,692. The difference between the first row and the second row is that those that did late registrations, WAEC didn't bill government. The total results released by WAEC to the CSSPS Secretariat was 455,951, meaning some results had been withheld, some people never came to write their exams. This issue of re-entry, that people stay home 1 year and come back, we allowed it even though the policy document said no re-entry. When we came into office, some people had collected people's money for re-entry, and we decided that, well, let's give them the chance. So we added re-entry of about 8,547. Next year, there will be no re-entry. The number of foreign students who came into the country to attend our secondary schools were about 36. So we put all of them, 464,534, into the CSSPS basket. The total who were qualified to be placed, of course, if you got Maths D9 or English D9, you were not placed. You have to do well to be placed. So that is the difference between those inputted and those that are qualified. So we got 427,124 who are qualified. So those who are qualified, as at 27th November, 7 p.m., 396,706 had gone to print out. That's another novelty we brought this year. So when you look at your results and you have been placed, you touch the button and you print out your school, so that when you get there, the headmaster cannot do libi-libi. Those that have printed the forms were 396,706. But those that are enrolled, as at yesterday, 8 a.m., were 358,205. And difference of about 38,000. Why? How does the difference come about? Why is it that if a child will go and print out a placement and will not go? Because a sizable number went to private schools. The private schools are still in the process. So a lot of them went to private schools. Some private schools are overfilled as well, because some parents went there. That is one. For some, I'm still there. I'll give you the reasons. There were 5 reasons why that discrepancy came. One, they went to private schools. For some students, they did the exams even though they were in first and second year junior high school. So they were taking the exams as mock exams. The Ghana Education Service has written to all schools to frown upon that practice. So they bloated the number. So they are not ready to go. Maybe they didn't do well and things like that. So they didn't get their choice schools. The other category we found, sadly, is that in certain parts of the country, the parents are saying that they need their children on their farms. So they will go next term. So we hope we will still keep that arrangement. Yet still, some have left the country. It's not everybody who wrote the BEC who is still in the country. So we have all those. Holy Child, you got some examples there. I know for a fact some have left the country. So these are some of the reasons, and for yet a small number, they still can't afford to go by buying the chop boxes and the trunks and the things, which as a country we have to look at. So those are the 5 reasons. Next. But when we started and we were doing our sums, these were our projections. Thinking, we thought we would get 468,000 re-entrants, WAEC. We got 468,060. Thought we projected 468,053. We got 468,060. We are not doing bad. The number that were qualified to be placed, we thought we would place 430, but we placed 427,000. Many more people failed than we anticipated. We thought we would enroll 362,781, hitting our projected enrollment rate of 84%. And we have enrolled, as at yesterday morning, 358,205, which is 83.9. I don't think we are doing badly. We hope there's room to improve. Next slide, please. I've explained this. Next slide. Next. The disbursements, I've explained it. I've explained. Next slide. The last slide. Okay, let's go through. Few issues that will come up during questions and answers that we are aware. Congestion, we'll talk about it. This day and boarding ratios. When we started, we wanted to hit a day boarding ratio for calculating, because we go to Ministry of Finance to take money. And you have to project in your budget what you are doing. We hope that we could achieve a 47% day and a 53% border. We wanted to do 50-50. And going forward, we want to even achieve more day students. But as at today, we have only done 32% day, 60. Who doesn't want to go to boarding school? It's free. Furniture. Interesting statistics we will display if needed. There is a particular school that was on a particular airwave that students were sitting, one in Accra, one was in Kumasi, that we will talk about during the question time, about furniture and beds and things like that in first years. Infrastructure deficit. Nobody says we've finished building all our schools. Actually, we are a growing population, and we'll have to, and the population is shifting. So we'll have to put many more schools, like say in Takoradi, than we had anticipated, because of the oil, more people are moving to Western region. More than probably in Sunyani, where people are moving out of. So we have to look at all these and provide school places and things as the population shifts and grows. Operational issues with buffer stock. That's why Hanan is dressed in white. He has been black all this time. He deserves his white shirt. Operational issues with some of the schools. Because buffer stock is supplying bulk things to schools, some schools don't have storage. Some schools are not requisitioning their things in time. Some of the buffer stock suppliers are not delivering to the schools in time. And there are challenges. And even when they deliver, we have a ganas on our hands. And it's not only ganas, I promise you. It's not only ganas. Current interventions. This is just an example of the head's request. There's one particular school, Vinting. Is it Vinting? What? Vinting. Okay, we all seem to know the school. That the head's letter to us requested 533 students. As at now, 517 students are enrolled. How does we or free SHS cause congestion in Vinting? The head said he could accommodate 533. As we speak, it is not 533 that have registered. It's 517. But Vinting, it's reported as free SHS causing congestion. Well, We will deal with those issues when they come up. But the schools also, the heads wrote to us some of the problems. Not those heads that wrote to us, or when we asked them, they said they had no problem. And truly, we haven't even reached their request, but are now turning around and blaming everything on free SHS. We'll give you another school. What's the name of that school? One of the 4 schools. One of the popular 4 schools that I'll use as an example very soon. One was in Accra, La Presby. La Presby is a particularly interesting case. They asked for 671. 600. So they had for 607, precisely. 607. As we speak, it's 533 in that school. 533 in that school. But La Presby has been touted as the poster boy for failure of free SHS. That we have had even media say, bring back Salavat campaigns. We've had it. It is not free SHS that has caused that problem in La Presby. So those that have brought the list, we have done tenders and we'll buy them and supply them to the schools. But I sincerely believe that if the government is determined to do this, a child should still have access to the school to study and learn than to be thrown on the street at the age of 15. We showed one slide that for the last 4 years, 100,000 kids who were placed could not go to school because they couldn't afford it. Yes, that is causing some stresses in the system because there are many more children. But most of what we have heard and seen and been told, probably if we discuss it today, people will look elsewhere. Government intends to buy this and supply it by the end of the year to all the schools to ease the congestions and the things.